my mother giving me to somebody, and she was begging me not to cry, and I just knew I was going away from her. I remember that. My mother and my father and my sister were killed by the Nazis. I was traveling, I was having kids, I just wanted to put it all out of my mind.
It was 1938. In the quiet town of Montauban, France, Marie Rose Gineste worked humbly as a secretary to Bishop Pierre-Marie Théas. Known for her gentle nature and unwavering faith, Marie Rose spent her days attending to the needs of the diocese, organizing documents, and coordinating church services. Yet, even in this seemingly peaceful corner of France, troubling news began to surface. Stories emerged of families fleeing their homes in search of refuge, particularly those who were Jewish and facing persecution in other parts of Europe. As a deeply compassionate woman, Marie Rose could not turn a blind eye to the suffering of those around her. Though she was far from powerful, her commitment to her faith and to helping others grew as more refugees arrived in Montauban, each carrying stories of fear, loss, and resilience. In these early days, Marie Rose listened to their stories with a heavy heart, feeling her responsibility to act increase with each passing day. By 1939, as war tensions mounted, the flow of Jewish families seeking safety grew. Montauban, while small, became a refuge for those who had lost everything, arriving with only what they could carry. The town rallied, with neighbors quietly providing food, shelter, and supplies. Marie Rose, inspired by her growing role in the diocese and the leadership of Bishop Théas, began organizing aid within the church, arranging resources, and finding safe places for families to stay. Her quiet courage and willingness to serve others became a beacon of hope for the refugees. Marie Rose's role expanded as the months passed, moving from providing basic support to coordinating more organized efforts for families in hiding. While still unassuming, she became a key figure in connecting those in need with safe passage and necessary supplies. Montauban's close-knit community, united by a shared sense of compassion, followed her lead, giving what little they had to help others. Her actions marked the beginning of a journey that would challenge her resolve and transform her into a symbol of resistance. By 1940, as the occupation of France began, Montauban found itself at the center of a movement to shelter those in need. Marie Rose Gineste's quiet commitment deepened as she witnessed the increasing numbers of Jewish families arriving, each one seeking a fleeting sense of safety. In these turbulent times, Marie Rose took on a more active role, moving beyond the simple acts of charity she'd started with and into a complex network of organized assistance. Under the guidance of Bishop Théas, who had publicly denounced the injustice faced by Jews in France, Marie Rose found a powerful ally. Bishop Théas' courageous statements gave Marie Rose the strength to take even greater risks, knowing that she was part of a broader resistance. In 1942, Bishop Théas issued a bold letter that called for compassion and condemned the discriminatory measures imposed on Jewish communities. Inspired by his leadership, Marie Rose felt a deepened resolve to help families reach safer locations. It was during this time that she began coordinating the distribution of identification papers and guiding families to safe locations. With each mission, the risks grew. Families were transported in secret, passing through safe houses under the careful coordination of local networks that operated in the shadows. Marie Rose acted as a central figure in this movement, helping to organize these efforts while maintaining a calm demeanor that shielded her from suspicion. One late evening in the winter of 1942, Marie Rose met Miriam, a young mother who had traveled far with her 2 children. Miriam's eyes held a mix of exhaustion and determination as she clutched her children's hands. Marie Rose welcomed them with quiet reassurance, guiding them to a safe space within the church grounds. That night, as they huddled in safety, Marie Rose promised Miriam that she would do everything in her power to help them reach a more secure location. This act of courage, though one of many, marked a pivotal moment in Marie Rose's journey as she assumed increasing responsibility for these families' lives. Over the following weeks, Marie Rose continued to support Miriam and her children, providing food, shelter, and resources to aid their journey. This act was just one among the many families she helped, each time risking her own life to ensure their safety. Her unassuming role allowed her to move through the town unnoticed, becoming a silent protector for those in need. With every family she aided, Marie Rose's resolve deepened, solidifying her place in the network of resistance and in the hearts of those she served. Marie Rose Gineste had become known quietly among the townsfolk as someone who could be trusted. As 1943 dawned, the work of helping families escape to freedom became more dangerous. The risks were unthinkable, but Marie Rose was unwavering. She was just one woman, yet her commitment inspired everyone who crossed her path. She knew every step of the journey she helped others take was fraught with danger, but she couldn't turn away from those who looked to her for hope. One evening, Marie Rose received word about a young couple hiding with their infant in a small cottage on the outskirts of town. She knew that time was of the essence. A message was waiting, delivered secretly through a network of quiet whispers. The couple needed new identification papers, and their child was ill. With her heart pounding, Marie Rose took a deep breath, knowing that this task would require a level of courage she hadn't yet needed to muster. As she arrived at the secluded cottage under cover of darkness, she looked at the worn, hopeful faces of the young couple. Marie Rose handed them the precious papers and whispered instructions for the next leg of their journey. The mother clutched her hand, their silent gratitude piercing the night air. This was just one family among many, yet their courage fueled her resolve. She would not abandon them. Each mission carried with it an added sense of urgency. Rumors of intensified searches spread through Montauban, but Marie Rose was undeterred. The more she gave, the more she saw the desperation in the eyes of those she helped, the deeper her commitment became. Her role evolved. She wasn't merely a secretary, but a lifeline, a point of connection for people from all walks of life, many of whom had given up hope until they met her. Her reputation grew, and with it, the risks. One cold morning, she received a message through a trusted friend about a group of children who had been left behind when their parents were forced to flee. With little time to spare, Marie Rose coordinated a plan to move the children to safety, carefully plotting their path through a network of supporters who knew the stakes. As she guided them under the cloak of night, each step felt like a heartbeat, steady and measured, her calm presence giving them strength. Marie Rose was no longer just aiding strangers, she was risking everything, becoming a shadow among shadows, known only by those who needed her. She had gone from a modest secretary to a force of silent resistance, her spirit growing stronger with every life she touched. By 1943, Marie Rose Gineste had become a quiet yet essential part of Montauban's underground network. Her actions grew bolder with each family she aided, each child she led to safety, each quiet moment where a small gesture could change a life. Her role, though still unassuming, was filled with unseen strength, and she became known as someone who could be trusted in the most critical moments. She moved through her town like a shadow, gathering supplies, securing safe houses, and planning escape routes, all while avoiding attention. One evening, she was called upon to help a group of children stranded in a nearby town. Their parents had been taken suddenly, and the children were left frightened and alone. When Marie Rose arrived, they looked up at her, clutching each other with tear-stained faces, wondering if they'd been found by a friend or foe. She extended a hand, her calm voice steady as she reassured them. With each step back to Montauban, she knew that she wasn't simply moving through her own familiar streets. She was carving out a path for those who had nowhere else to go. As she navigated these nightly journeys, Marie Rose began to notice small signals of trust from her fellow townsfolk. Neighbors started leaving supplies in hidden spots. Doors left slightly ajar for her to pass through undetected. Her quiet efforts began to inspire a ripple effect. Soon, Montauban was more than a simple village. It had become a network of silent allies, all working to shield the vulnerable without drawing attention to themselves. Her circle expanded to include a few trusted individuals, people willing to take small yet significant risks to help those Marie Rose guided. Among them was an elderly baker who provided fresh bread for families on the run, slipping extra loaves to Marie Rose in the early hours of the morning. Another ally, a school teacher, used her position to spread coded messages, alerting Marie Rose to families in urgent need. Each one played a unique role in the hidden web Marie Rose had woven, and together, they kept the effort alive. Then, one dark winter evening, she encountered one of her greatest challenges yet. A mother and her young son were trying to make their way out of France, but they had nowhere safe to go. The boy, no more than 5 years old, clung tightly to his mother, his wide eyes filled with fear. They had endured much to reach Montauban, and now they stood in front of Marie Rose, exhausted and unsure. She knew she couldn't send them further without a well-prepared plan, so she arranged for them to stay in a small, hidden room at the church until it was safe to travel. Each day, she brought them food and supplies, comforting the mother with quiet assurances and stories to ease the child's fears. Over the next few weeks, she crafted a detailed route for the mother and her child, coordinating with the underground network that stretched to the Spanish border. The night they left, Marie Rose watched as they disappeared into the shadows, her heart heavy but unwavering. Each farewell reminded her of the depth of her commitment, a commitment that went beyond courage or defiance. She felt it in the quiet moments, the whispered goodbyes, and the knowledge that these small acts, though unseen, were meaningful beyond measure. With each passing day, Marie Rose's resolve grew. The quiet resistance she had built was thriving, even in secrecy, and every step she took was another assertion that kindness could survive in even the harshest circumstances. The work was not easy, and the weight of responsibility often lay heavy on her shoulders. But she knew that every life saved was a life that held the potential to heal, to continue, and to carry forward a spirit of compassion in a world that so desperately needed it. In the winter of 1943, an icy chill settled over Montauban, and with it, a growing sense of tension. Marie Rose Gineste had spent months navigating hidden paths, rallying quiet acts of courage from those around her. Each new success only strengthened her resolve, but she knew that her work would soon draw suspicion. She and her close allies in the community kept their work guarded, careful to speak only in whispers and act only under the cover of night. Even a small mistake could unravel everything, a risk she understood all too well. One evening, as a storm gathered over the town, Marie Rose received an urgent message. A family, a father, mother, and their 2 young daughters, had narrowly escaped capture and were hiding in an abandoned farmhouse just outside Montauban. Their lives were in her hands and time was slipping away. The storm would make travel difficult, but Marie Rose saw it as a blessing in disguise. The darkness and rain would help conceal them, shielding them as they made their way to a nearby safe house. Dressed in a heavy coat and with a small satchel of supplies, Marie Rose set out alone, her footsteps muffled by the thickening snow. The wind howled around her, and each step was a reminder of the urgency of her mission. She finally arrived at the farmhouse, her heart pounding as she knocked softly on the door. It creaked open, revealing the exhausted faces of the family. She could see the mixture of relief and anxiety in their eyes as they silently welcomed her inside. Marie Rose knelt beside the young girls, offering them a piece of bread and whispering gentle reassurances. She explained their path, detailing every step, every hiding place along the route. Her words were steady, calm, a grounding force for the family who clung to every detail, hoping to escape the reach of authorities. The journey was treacherous, with the rain turning the ground into a slick, icy path. Marie Rose led the family with a determined focus, her eyes scanning the path for any sign of danger. The little girls stumbled in the mud, and she took turns carrying them, each step harder than the last. Her strength was wearing thin, but her spirit held fast. Finally, after hours of trudging through the storm, they reached the safe house, a modest, hidden space kept by an elderly couple on the edge of town. The couple welcomed the family with warm blankets and a place by the fire, their kindness a quiet light in a world of uncertainty. Marie Rose watched as the family huddled together, their faces finally relaxing in the glow of safety. Her exhaustion melted away, replaced by a profound sense of fulfillment. As she lay awake that night, reflecting on the risks and the lives she had touched, Marie Rose was reminded of the simple yet powerful truth that had driven her all along. In a world filled with hardship, small acts of kindness could change the course of a life. She didn't know how long she could continue, but as long as there was a family in need, she would be there, ready to guide them through the darkness. By early 1944, Montauban had become more than a town to those seeking shelter. It was a last chance, a fragile promise of safety. Marie Rose Gineste was at the heart of this quiet resistance. Her life transformed into a series of midnight missions, hurried whispers, and hidden paths. Every journey was different, each face a reminder of the lives hanging in the balance, and she met every challenge with unyielding resolve. The task was immense, and the risks ever present, but she knew she could not stop now, not while there were still families hoping to survive. One particularly cold night, Marie Rose learned of a young musician named David who had managed to escape capture but was hiding alone, with nowhere to turn. The local network was stretched thin, with few safe houses left, but Marie Rose felt a deep sense of urgency. David had been separated from his family and had been on the run for weeks. The thought of this young man, alone and afraid, haunted her as she hurriedly packed provisions and set out through the icy streets. David's hiding place was an abandoned shed, just on the edge of town. As Marie Rose approached, she could hear the faint sound of a harmonica drifting through the night air, carrying a melody filled with sorrow and hope. She knocked gently, and when the door opened, she found a young man, weary but defiant. His eyes reflected a life disrupted, but also a glimmer of resilience. She assured him he was not alone and would be safe under her care. As they walked, she learned his story. David had been a promising musician, his life filled with melodies and dreams before the turmoil had taken it all away. Marie Rose listened, her heart heavy, yet inspired by his quiet courage. She led him to a new safe house, a small attic room offered by a sympathetic farmer on the outskirts of town. This simple act, giving David a place to rest, food to eat, and above all, someone to trust, was her way of restoring a piece of the life he had lost. Marie Rose's network had grown, and so had the trust within Montauban. By now, she was part of an intricate web of supporters, each one risking their lives to shelter people like David. The local baker continued to provide extra loaves to those in hiding, leaving them near the church for Marie Rose to distribute. A doctor, loyal to the cause, treated the sick in secret, and a teacher relayed coded messages about new arrivals, creating a lifeline of information that kept families connected and safe. Each night, Marie Rose would review her plans, mapping out the next day's missions with a clarity that belied the danger she faced. Her humble role as a church secretary gave her the perfect cover, allowing her to move through the town unnoticed, her quiet presence concealing a fierce determination. One evening, a trusted friend brought her news of a young mother, Isabel, and her infant daughter, who had been hiding for days, running out of food and on the brink of despair. Marie Rose set off immediately, navigating through fields and forests under cover of darkness. When she arrived, Isabel clutched her daughter tightly, her eyes filled with gratitude and exhaustion. Marie Rose wrapped a blanket around them both, comforting Isabel with promises of safety and guiding them to a new shelter. Marie Rose's work was never without danger, and each mission brought with it the risk of betrayal. The tension grew with each passing month, and rumors circulated about crackdowns on those suspected of helping the displaced. Yet she moved forward, undeterred, her spirit fortified by the lives she had saved and the trust she had built within her community. She knew her mission was not only about survival, but about preserving the very essence of compassion in a world that had lost its way. Her actions left a lasting mark on Montauban, and each family she helped carried forward her quiet bravery. Marie Rose Gineste became a symbol of defiance, though her true work was known only to those she helped. She asked for nothing in return, finding her purpose fulfilled in the simple act of lighting a path for others, one that would endure long after the war had passed. By spring of 1944, Marie Rose Gineste had become a pillar of courage for Montauban. Her reputation was whispered among those in need, a quiet figure who could offer hope and safe passage in a time of unprecedented hardship. Yet with each success, the scrutiny around her and her network grew, and Marie Rose knew it was only a matter of time before her work would draw unwanted attention. Her greatest fear was that a single misstep could expose the entire network, putting every family and ally at risk. One day she received word of a large group, a collection of families and individuals who had arrived together in the neighboring village. They had endured unimaginable journeys, evading capture at every turn, but they were now weak and running out of food. This would be her largest operation yet, and it required coordination on a scale she hadn't yet attempted. She gathered her closest allies, including the baker and the teacher, who had worked tirelessly with her. Together they devised a plan to bring each person into Montauban in small groups, where they could rest before making their final journey to safety. Marie Rose's plan was intricate, Each family would be taken to a separate location, a series of hidden rooms and attics offered by sympathetic townsfolk who understood the importance of protecting these vulnerable travelers. The local doctor, trusted by everyone in the network, volunteered to visit each hiding place, bringing food and tending to the sick, using his medical rounds as cover. Each person in the network played a vital role, and under Marie Rose's careful guidance, the operation moved forward with remarkable coordination. As the families arrived in Montauban, Marie Rose's resolve was tested as never before. One evening, a close call forced her to think quickly, altering plans and redirecting people to avoid detection. She moved with a sense of urgency and calm, guiding each family to safety, her words and presence a reassuring force. She knew that this mission was likely to be one of her last, but there was no hesitation in her actions. For each family, each child, and each elderly person she helped, Marie Rose felt an overwhelming sense of duty that outweighed her own fears. One particular family stood out to her, a grandmother, her daughter, and her 2 grandchildren, one of whom had fallen ill on their journey. Marie Rose arranged for them to stay with a farmer who lived just outside the town. She visited them often, bringing medicine and supplies. But more than that, she brought reassurance. The grandmother, who had seen her entire life uprooted, looked at Marie Rose with profound gratitude, recognizing in her a strength and kindness that had kept their family going through the darkest of times. As spring turned into summer, the stakes only grew higher. Marie Rose could sense that her network was being watched more closely, and the pressure mounted. Yet the determination within her community held strong, the shared understanding that they were part of something larger than themselves. Each act, each mission, each life saved reinforced their shared purpose. They moved through their routines with quiet resilience, continuing their work under a veil of secrecy that had become their lifeline. Finally, one late summer night, Marie Rose received news that filled her heart with hope. The war was drawing to a close, and Montauban, along with countless other towns, would soon find itself liberated. Yet Marie Rose knew that her work was far from over. The people she had helped would need time to heal, to rebuild, and to find their place in a changed world. She had given so much, yet the journey for so many was just beginning. Marie Rose Gineste had no wish for recognition or reward. Her life had become woven into the stories of those she helped, a quiet legacy carried forward in the lives she touched. In a world shaken by hardship, she had stood as a silent force, determined to protect the vulnerable and preserve the bonds of humanity, even when hope seemed a distant dream. By the summer of 1944, the tide was finally turning. Marie Rose Gineste, who had risked everything to protect families in Montauban, felt a cautious sense of relief as word spread of the approaching liberation. Her once small acts of kindness had grown into a vast network of support, each step driven by her unyielding belief in the value of every life. On the day Montauban was freed, Marie Rose took a quiet moment in the church, reflecting on all those who had passed through her care. She remembered each face, each whispered farewell, and the courage of those who had stood by her, risking their own lives to shelter strangers. She knew the work had changed her profoundly, making her part of a story far larger than her own. When the war ended, Marie Rose resumed her life without seeking recognition. Yet, the families she had helped never forgot her. She had given them hope and reminded them of the strength within themselves. Her legacy remained in Montauban, a quiet, powerful testament to the enduring impact of compassion and the courage to act. Marie Rose Gineste continued her humble life, but her story would inspire generations to come, a reminder that even in the darkest times, one person's quiet actions can change countless lives.